Dan Koras, a spokesman for Mr. Trump, who later had as a client Jeffrey Epstein, said of the July 1987 Moscow trip, Mr. Trump met with a lot of the economic and financial advisors in the Politburo. Mr. Trump's public company's collapse arguably began in 1999, just 3 years after spending about $60 million to buy back the former Trump Regency Hotel and pumping in millions for renovations. The company closed it. The company spent another $26 million to demolish the building, taking a $125 million write-off. In 2000, Mr. Trump fired the chief executive of his casino company and installed himself in the role, promising he would turn things around. The share price was by then hovering near $3. Revenues at other Atlantic City casinos rose 18% from 1997 through 2002. Mr. Trump's fell by 1%. Had Mr. Trump's revenues grown at the rate of other Atlantic City casinos, his company could have made its interest payments and possibly registered a profit. But with sagging revenues and high costs, his casinos had too little money for renovations and improvements, which are vital for hotels to attract guests. The public company never logged a profitable year. Mr. Trump attributed his declining market share in those years to the fact that his 3 casinos were competing with one another, a tacit acknowledgement that he overbuilt. That was the bad news. The good news is that I saved a lot of money in terms of dealing with costs. Mark Burnett changed the way Americans think about television. What he deals in is non-scripted drama, dramality, as he likes to call it. With Survivor in 2000, Mr. Burnett not only pulled in an astonishing 51 million viewers, he also single-handedly rejuvenated CBS. In the beginning of 2001, Mr. Burnett has sold a new show to NBC with the working title Destination Mir. In this show, the contestant who emerges victorious from the made-for-TV astronaut training competition wins the opportunity to be strapped inside a Soyuz rocket and blasted into outer space. Burnett has been negotiating with Russian officials for months over Destination Mir, but recent reports on how the space station is about to fall out of the sky have, to say the least, complicated his plans. Still, he believes the show can be pulled off. Mr. Burnett is openly contemptuous of even a bit of negative thinking. He looks at it this way: I think Mir is going to be hard only as a political thing. The show will be easy. I really want to do a space show, and typically I'm quite good at making things happen. Half crowing and half cowed, Mr. Burnett said, Putin is involved. Yes, that Putin. For nearly 2 decades, Mr. Burnett has spoken about his desire to make a television show with Vladimir Putin. In 2001, he sought to enlist Putin in a project called Destination Mir, a reality competition in which the winner would be sent into space. The idea was scuttled after Russia decommissioned the Mir space station. In 2000, back in the United States following 6 years living in Russia, Michael Caputo was hired by Gazprom Media. Mr. Caputo's role would be to improve Putin's and the Russian government's image in the U.S. In 2001, Mr. Caputo worked for Gazprom Media as they invested in and took control of NTV, a Russian national television station that was owned by an oligarch. Mr. Caputo said, my direction was to set meetings in Washington with the media and in New York City for corporate CEO, for Gazprom Media CEO, Alfred Koch. To capitalize on his new business model, Mr. Trump struck a deal with a Florida developer to attach his name to 6 high-rises in Sunny Isles just outside Miami. Without having to put up a dime of his own money, Trump would receive a cut of the profits. Gil Deser, the Sunny Isles developer, said, Russians love the Trump brand. A local broker told the Washington Post that 1/3 of the 500 apartments he'd sold went to Russian speakers. So many bought the Trump-branded apartments, in fact, that the area became known as Little Moscow. Many of the units were sold by a native of Uzbekistan who had immigrated from the Soviet Union in the 1980s. Her business was so brisk that she soon began bringing Russian tour groups to Sunny Isles to view the properties. According to a Reuters investigation, at least 63 buyers with Russian addresses or passports spent $98 million on Trump's properties in South Florida. What's more, another 1/3 of the units, more than 700 in all, were bought by shadowy shell companies that concealed the true owners. An investigation by the Miami Herald found that at least 13 buyers in the Florida complex have been the target of government investigations, either personally or through their companies, including members of a Russian-American organized crime group. Two buyers in Sunny Isles, Anatoly Golubchik and Michael Sale, were convicted for taking part in a massive international gambling and money laundering syndicate that was run out of Trump Tower in New York. According to the FBI, the ring was operating under the protection of the Russian mafia. The influx of Russian money did more than save Trump's business from ruin. It set the stage for the next phase of his career. In a September 2002 interview, Jock Howard Stern asked Mr. Trump if he supported the looming invasion of Iraq. Mr. Trump responded, "Yeah, I guess so. You know, I wish the first time it was done correctly." Well, he has either got to do something or not do something, perhaps we shouldn't be doing it yet, and perhaps we should be waiting for the United Nations, you know. I think he's doing a very good job. I think the Iraqi situation is a problem, and I think the economy is a much bigger problem as far as the president is concerned. On January 28, 2003, Russian President Vladimir Putin stated that while military action against Iraq was unwarranted, if Iraq impeded UN weapons inspectors, Russia could reach agreement with the United States on other, tougher solutions.